Welcome to the Prophecy Club. You know, I've been carrying this message that America is going to get attacked and destroyed by Russia in 1 hour since about February of 1980. Let me think, 1988. Long time. So today's topic is America is preparing to attack Russia. I know how that sounds. It sounds like, are you crazy? We wouldn't do that. Actually, there's a whole lot of things that we wouldn't do that our government is doing. And in this case, they're sort of doing it behind our back. I'll explain. In the meantime, there's no other way I can say it. I keep saying it. You have to have food. And you remember the whole world lived on wheat during the days of Joseph and the pyramids and the pharaohs. It was wheat that fed the world. And Jesus calls us the wheat versus the tares, and I think that's because probably the thing that the human body is supposed to be living off of is wheat. If you go to Joseph's Kitchen, that has an S in there, josephskitchen.com, what I recommend you do is first is you need to get the machines, okay? This is a grinder. You put the wheat. They'll actually send you wheat. And the wheat comes in buckets, not paper bags that don't last. Buckets that probably will last in the ballpark of 25 years, okay? So you put the wheat into a grinder, push a button, 30 seconds later you have wheat. Put that into the bread machine along with 6 other ingredients. I mean, I've made close to now like 200 loaves, okay? Push a button, 2 hours, 40 minutes later, you have one of these. Now, there's videos up on josephkitchen.com. Matter of fact, I'm on some of them. And it will show you how to make bread along with also the ingredients, everything. Now, why? Because I think that, look, you know, most of these long-term storage food places, you're talking $9,000 or $10,000 to feed one person for a year. And most of it is stuff like macaroni and cheese that you boil. I mean, it's not exactly that good for you. And one guy said, I pulled down some of my long-term storage food stuff, and I decided I was going to actually cook it. And I couldn't get my wife and kids to eat it. Okay, so that's a problem too. And when whole wheat bread is cooking in the house, everybody wants a piece of it. It's really good. It smells really good. And there's lots of ways to fix it. In my case, when I started going on bread, I lost weight, I lowered my blood pressure, and I eat a slice of it before I go play racquetball because I can run like the wind. Why? Because it's filled with vitamin B12. I mean, it's what the body should be eating. So I recommend you go to josephskitchen.com and get yourself some good long-term emergency storage food. Okay, on to the program. I know you may be thinking, America's not going to attack Russia. Oh, yes, it is. Russia has moved 11 nuclear submarines. Let me read that again. Russia has moved 11 nuclear submarines into the Atlantic Ocean. Why would they do that? We are in a Cuban Missile Crisis again. Now, is it on the news today? No, it's not. What are you hearing about? Trump? You're hearing about the border. You're hearing about various other things. But the real thing that America needs to be hearing about is right there. Russia has moved 11 nuclear submarines into the Atlantic Ocean. The article says Russia has deployed 11 nuclear submarines into the Atlantic Ocean. Each submarine, get a load of this, carries from 6 to 16 nuclear bombs. And in some cases, up to 32 missiles, each of which can hold from 6 to 10 nuclear warheads. In other words, one submarine could destroy America. One submarine. And they have the missiles that can go, I think it's 37 times the speed of sound. They just proved that we can't shoot them down. They fired them from Iran into Israel. We can't shoot them down. If Israel can't shoot them down, America sure can't shoot them down. Okay, so Russia knows that. America knows that. So what are we doing? Evil people in high places in America are causing the destruction of America. Why? I think that they have a looking glass, they can see into the future. I think they have a time machine, they can move into the future. And I think that they know that an internal revolution is coming. You remember Benjamin Fulford was told that we have ruled this planet for thousands of years, we'll destroy it rather than give it up. I think they know. Trump is ahead. They know they're about to lose control of America, so they're making good on their promise. Now, they don't have the nuclear weapons. I'm talking about the elite, the deep state. Can't say the real name of them anymore. But they've raised up Russia that does. And by the way, it's really not Russia attacking us. It's really God attacking us. Let's go on. So this deployment means that a cautious estimate proves that there are now around 1,000 warheads on Russian submarines that can be headed toward the east coast or perhaps in the Gulf of Mexico. This deployment comes just days after Ukraine, or more likely a NATO country, attacked and either damaged or destroyed 2 separate Russian over-the-horizon nuclear missile warning radar stations in southern Russia. Now, Russia's not worried about that. Russia has scalar wave. They can detect any launch on the globe anytime they want to. They can destroy anything in the air, on the land, on the sea, under the sea, any place on the globe, anytime they want to. They're not worried about them losing a couple of radar detecting devices. But it does give them reason and cause to explain to the whole world, wait a minute, they attacked us first. See? Let's go on to the article. When those radars were operational, Russia would have been between 14 to 16 minutes advance warning that nuclear missiles were coming at the country. Now, though, those radars are destroyed. If a submarine-launched missile was fired from the eastern Mediterranean Sea almost anywhere in the Red Sea, in the Gulf of Arabia, or from south country of Somalia on the African continent, Russia will only have 10 to 12 minutes warning, likely less. No. They will know the minute it is launched, the second it's launched. But they aren't telling us that. In southern Russia, the destruction of the 2 radar stations means Russia can only detect inbound missiles when they are past the horizon, much closer to Russia. Given the speed at which such missiles travel, that amounts to a warning, frankly, too late. He says, this compressed time frame no longer allows Russia time to figure out what they might be happening before they decide to launch a return strike. In other words, if they think they don't have enough time, or they're telling us they don't have enough time, that gives them cause to attack us. Ukraine derived no military benefit whatsoever from hitting those 2 radar stations. Neither one of them tracked anything over Ukraine. The only entities that derived any benefit, listen carefully, from attacking those radar stations would be the U.S., NATO, and Israel. Clearly, Russia believes this blinding of the 2 over-the-horizon radar stations is a prelude to war. Putin tells Russian citizens, work as if you are on the front line, as if you are mobilized for war. That's what he's saying. And I watched this. I didn't put the video on here because it didn't really have anything more than that to say. With an estimated 500,000 troops inside Ukraine and another 200,000 to 300,000 to be sent shortly, Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke yesterday to the Russian people about the war in Ukraine. He told them, work as if you were on the front line, as if you're mobilized for war. It is the only way we'll achieve the objectives we set for ourselves. Well, what objectives do they have? I've never heard of those objectives. I can guess what they are: to rule the world. 10 European countries have given Ukraine permission to strike inside Russia. What? 10 European countries have given Ukraine permission to use the weapons that they sent over to attack inside Russia, not things that are in Russia's brought into Ukraine, but inside Russia. You can read the nations: UK, Latvia, Lithuania, Netherlands, Poland, France, Czech Republic, Sweden, Estonia, Canada, and, as I read an article the other day, America. So what does that mean? Ukraine has the right to strike the territory of Russia by Canadian weapons. There are no restrictions. Okay, so if, of course, Russia has openly said, I said this in yesterday or the day before program, Russia has openly said that if NATO or U.S., if bomb parts from a nation land in Russia, that gives Russia the permission to attack that nation back. And that's exactly what's about to happen. In other words, we're going to war. just like Dmitry was told 40 years ago, as of August 3rd. The weapons detonated, just getting back up, the weapons are donated to Ukraine, are very sophisticated. In most cases, the Ukrainians simply don't know how to operate them. And I'm about to read another article. They don't know how to operate our F-16s we're sending them either. Okay, so who's operating them? If they can't operate them, who's operating them? Let me say it again. If we send bullets, ammunition, planes, tanks to Ukraine, and they're, for whatever reason, they can't run them, but they're still winding up hitting Russia, Russia's not stupid. They are the chess champions for many generations. They're not stupid. They know warfare. They understand warfare. And they will attack, just like Dmitry was told. Ukrainians simply don't know how to operate them. According to Russia, these sophisticated weapons are already being programmed, launched, and guided to target by NATO, or i.e. America. So I started out saying America is getting ready to attack Russia. Is that true? Absolutely, that's true. We're seeing no longer is America a proxy. What we're seeing is no longer a proxy war. Russian territory will be attacked by NATO weapons that are guided by NATO surveillance, NATO targeting, and with official state objective of knocking out a U.S. rival, Russia. Boom. We, America, are about to attack Russia. That's the way they're going to look at it. Doesn't make a difference how we look at it. That's how Russia looks at it. And Russia has weapons that can destroy America in 1 hour, and we can't stop them. In other words, evil people in high places in America are destroying America. Why? Because America has turned from Jesus. Bottom line. Fears are mounting fast that Putin will soon likely allow attacks on NATO logistic centers to prevent those weapons from entering Ukraine. If that takes place, it would be an all-out war. We may be at war with Russia before the end of this year. But I'm going to show you some timing here in just a second. All this because the collective West is determined to grab Ukraine to put NATO and U.S. missiles in Ukrainian soil, so they only have a 5-minute flight time to Moscow. Russia will simply not allow their safety to be impacted that way. They're not going to put up with it. Lavrov says Russia will interpret arrival of F-16s in Ukraine as a nuclear sphere. What does that mean? Several NATO countries are in the process of donating F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine. The United States demanded that only the nuclear-capable version be donated. That's Biden. Okay, now what does that mean? It means that Russia, every time they see an F-16, they know that that's not to take out troops. That's not to hit buildings. Those will only be able to carry nuclear weapons. What does that also mean? It means we're about to arm Ukraine with nuclear weapons. The Ukrainian pilots simply cannot master the aircraft because of the language difference. These are pilots accustomed to MiG and Sukhoi aircraft, all of which are the, if I'm pronouncing this right, Cyrillic languages, in other words, like Russian. And based upon me watching movies, probably like you do, the aircraft talks. I hear them on the airplanes I fly on. It just says, pull up, ground, or I don't know. But anyway, they can't understand the English, so they're not getting it. Their years of training and even muscle memory are all geared to those MiG and Sukhoi aircraft. They're having terrible trouble trying to adapt to the English language when stressed. Their memory of MiG and Sukhoi causes them to reach for the wrong control within the F-16 because they're so accustomed to the MiG and Sukhoi. So, what's going on? Essentially, it's going to be American blood about to be spilled. And American blood's about to spill Russian blood, probably Russian blood on Russian territory. And Russia's going to say, we don't have to put up with this. We can take them out. And they will take us out. I don't want to think it's going to happen this year, but I can't guarantee it's not going to happen this year. We are now at the point where there is enough confidence in the Ukrainian pilots that NATO is looking to start placing the F-16s into surface inside Ukraine, in the next week or so. So, I mean, technically, America could be attacked by Russian nuclear bombs in the next week or so if you take away the prophecies that say, no, we have more time. It seems on its face that Lavrov's warning would result in any F 16 that comes within missile launch range of Russian territory will be viewed as a nuclear attack. Well, look at if the F 16s only, the ones they're sending, only can carry nuclear weapons, when they see an F 16, Russia can say that's a nuclear weapon. And they're not stupid. And they're not going to put up with it. Of course, if Russia sees F-16s approaching missile launch range and believes those planes are nuclear armed, they're going to attack. So, is it safe to say that in our lifetime, Russia is going to attack and defeat America in 1 hour? Yeah. Yeah, it's safe to say. If that's the position of the Russians, then what happens if Russia makes such a response? Well, we know what's going to happen. Let me go to the next thing. This is from Henry Gruver, my favorite speaker of all time. He made a DVD for Prophecy Club called I Saw Submarines Attack America. He has 6 visions of America's future. You can watch it instantly at watchprophecyclub.com. He says, I was in Wales December 14th, 1986, because what he did was get a map and systematically walk down every street in the city, praying loud, praying in the Spirit, pulling down strongholds, loosing the angels to do warfare. When he was done, he would go over a high point, lift his hands up, and reclaim the land for God. And that's what he's doing here. He went upon an eagle tower at the Carnarvon Castle. He said, all of a sudden, I was above the earth, looking down on the earth like a globe. I saw all these massive amounts of airplanes and ships coming out of this outlet out of Norway. They headed down between the United States and Europe, literally covering the whole Atlantic. I looked over on the globe of the United States, and I saw coming out of the United States radio communication towers. Now, in 1986, there were no cell phone towers. But later, he identified what he saw as saying they were cell phone towers. I saw the jagged lines to show that the communications were coming out, but all of a sudden, they began to sprinkle down on the earth like dust. I thought, oh no. Oh no, they're not getting out. They don't know what's happening. They do not know. In other words, America was blinded and did not see the attack coming. And I'm about to read something that'll explain to you why. They don't know what is happening. I began to see submarines emerging from under the surface. I was surprised at how close they were to our borders. They're almost sitting on our beaches. He says it took less than 60 seconds from launch to detonation. I saw one hit Seattle, Bellevue, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, Miami, and Tampa. I saw 6 nuclear blasts that just literally leveled everything. I cried out and said, oh God, when will this be, and what will be the sign of its coming? I heard an audible voice speak to me and say, when Russia opens her doors and lets the masses go, the free world will occupy themselves with transporting, housing, feeding, and caring for the masses, and will let down their weapons and cry peace and safety. Then sudden destruction will come. Then is when it will come. WatchProphecyClub.com will explain it to you. Now let's go to why we are blinded, or how we're blinded. March 15, 2014, Maurice Sklar. Now, once again, like Henry Gruver, I've had Henry Gruver in my home several times. He's made 6 or 7 or 8 DVDs with Prophecy Club. I've had Maurice in my home. We've been out to eat with him several times. Him and his wife, that's gone to be with the Lord now. And he's a prophet. He's here from God. He said, I saw a huge angel standing suspended in the air over New York Harbor. It looked so large that it covered the night sky. His body was clad in golden armor as if he was going to war. His face and entire being were so bright, I could not gaze at him for long. White beams of light seemed to radiate outward from him in all directions. My guess is this is the Revelation 18 angel, the angel over America, whose name we do not know. He was standing over the Statue of Liberty. It was night, but I could hardly see the lights around him coming from New York City as he blazed so brightly with divine light. He reached for his belt and was covered with a red sash around his midsection and drew out a sword. It was so massive it blazed with light and fire all around it. It looked at least 100 foot long. I have never seen such fear when I saw an angel before. I just knew the mighty warring spirit had authority from the very throne of God. He had a grim expression as he held his mighty sword over his head with both hands. I could see that he was poised to hit the Statue of Liberty and cleave it in two. Is that when we split America and God splits, when we split Israel, God splits America? I trembled and tried to hide, but the angel was looking directly at me. He knew, and I knew, there was nowhere I could go that I would not see him. Then he spoke. His voice was like thunder and echoed throughout the whole harbor, and he said, "How long will you refuse me? Humble yourself, O America. You have been weighed in the balances of God and found wanting. Your beginning was great and noble, but your end shall be disgrace and destruction. Thus saith the Lord of heaven's armies, the Lord of hosts, time is running out. The bowels of my wrath are full of my fury and judgment. They shall be poured out upon you. You shall drink them down to the dregs, every drop. I have come to you day and night, pleading with you to return to me for over 100 years. I am merciful and long-suffering, and it brings me no joy to judge you. But you have hardened your hearts, scoffed at my warnings through my prophets and my holy servants. I brought you from nothing and exalted you, O America, higher than any other nation. But now you have fallen lower than Sodom. You have sinned greater than Egypt. You have become prouder than Babylon and Persia. You have become more selfish than Rome. You have exalted yourself in your own wisdom higher than Greece. You have more idols and high places of idolatry and luxury than any Gentile kingdom in history. Your beginning was pure and great, but now the stench of your sin and filth fills my nostrils. I shall cut you in pieces. Again, is that because we cut Israel in pieces? I shall cut you in pieces, and you shall reap the harvest of the wrath from what you have sown. You shall no longer be the queen of nations. Now you shall bear your shame and become the lowest of the heathen nations. Now as Agag, you shall be hacked in pieces, O earth, earth, earth. Hear ye the word of the Lord. Then to my horror, that massive sword came down, smashing on Lady Liberty. When it hit the top of her head, there was a blinding flash of light, and that sword split her in two, right down the middle. Is that the splitting of America? Then the sword came again and again against her. It divided her in pieces. As the sword would finish each strike, fires would burst forth. I heard terrible explosions. The vision of the statue ended with an earthquake, as it was hacked into pieces and sunk into the harbor. I was weeping, and by the way, that earthquake, now let me just be clear, I do not know that Omar ushers in Palestinian state is going to happen this year. I do not know that. I do not know that it's going to happen occur at the Jerusalem Post. I don't know that. But it is interesting that the thing that's associated with this, the split of America, is also an earthquake. The vision of the statue ended with an earthquake as it hacked into pieces and sunk into the harbor. I was weeping and crying out to God for mercy. Never had I seen this side of God before. I'd only really known the love and goodness of Him. Never had I seen the wrath of the Almighty. Then, as I was watching from a zoomed-in close-up, the dream shifted, and I started to zoom outward from New York Harbor and started traveling in the air over America. What I saw was horror beyond anything I have ever seen. I saw the United States seem to crack into with a giant earthquake. We could be seeing that by the end of June of 2024. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I am giving it a 90% chance, though. Crack in two with a giant earthquake right down the middle. I saw the southeastern United States covered with a giant wave of water from the ocean, as if a meteor hit Mona Islands just west of Puerto Rico. Okay, all of this fits. I saw a massive earthquake just seem to crack off the coast of California, just like Michael Buldea and two other prophets saw the same night. It reminded me of a saltine cracker that just cracked in two. The great cities along the west coast just fell into the ocean, all the way from Mexico up to Alaska, and giant waves flooded inland until much of the west coast simply wasn't there. It had just disappeared into the Pacific Ocean. Michael Buldea saw that it affected 10 states that had to redraw the lines on the maps. The Golden Gate Bridge fell. Then I saw 3 giant rocket missiles that took off into the air. 2 came out of the ocean waters, and 1 came from land and traveled a great distance. All of them blew up in the air, 1, 2, 3, in the upper atmosphere within 5 minutes of each other. What's that? Those are EMP bombs. They're nuclear, but they're not designed to be heat or to destroy things. They're designed to put off a very big, powerful EMP, which, by the way, if you want your cars to start, if you want your computers to work in your house, get one of these, empshield.com. Use the promo code prophecy, get you a $50 discount. Also, helps your prophecy club. They've got videos how to put it in. It takes about, I put one in our cars, one in our house, about 10 minutes. Follow this. It's simple. Anyway, so I was in outer space. There were terrible nuclear bombs, but the last one was the biggest, and it created a big, huge mushroom cloud over the Midwest part of America. Then the ground shook and everything just went black. Why? EMP fried all of the computer chips. There wasn't any electric light coming out of any of the homes. Then candles began to be lit and fires and a little light was seen. There were other nuclear explosions and many people perished throughout the nation. There was just twisted metal and charred debris in cities that once were tall and majestic. There was widespread looting of gangs roaming about everywhere with guns, stealing whatever food and supplies they could find. Remember the dream that Pastor Massey had, where they came to the door, they wanted to talk to him? He said, before I talk to you, I want to go get my gun. And he got his gun and 3 cartridges in order to just talk to someone at his door. In other words, the police apparently are gone, okay? Then I saw what looked like an entire riot police by thousands going to the communities and even the cities and forced the people out of their homes and brought them into what looked like concentration camps. Some, but not all of these police armies had light blue helmets on. Hundreds of thousands of people were arrested in this way. Many would not cooperate and were simply shot and left dead in their homes. But there were millions of hidden groups that escaped the first wave of these terrible disasters. Then, revival broke out. This is the same thing Shane Warren saw. This is the same thing Dana Coverstone saw. Okay, we've heard this a lot of different ways, a lot of different people. Revival broke out. Great evangelists and prophets and apostles rose up and began to preach to thousands outdoors. Many were saved and born again. Miracles of provision, multiplication of food and water was astonishing. Astonishing healings occurred. Millions of people cried out to God, and he heard and answered. I knew that this was not just happening in America, but the Great Tribulation was upon us, and all over the world these calamities were also taking place. I saw multitudes of tribulation saints refusing to renounce Jesus as Lord. They were starving, many of them, but they refused to take the stamp of their bodies so they could eat and live. There was what looked like these kiosks that were in every little town. They advertised food and water, but only if you went inside and took the electronic mark. Some went in, bowed down to the holographic movie image of the Antichrist, and were branded in their hands and foreheads with an electronic tattoo like stamp. When they came out, if they came out, they had a zombie-like look. Their minds and souls were gone. It looked like they had a spiritual lobotomy. Then these immediately joined the armies of those police units and were given weapons after they were fed and drank and rested in the kiosk. They were like robots doing the Antichrist's bidding. This is where the Antichrist sends them out to find all of the people that do not have the mark and kill them. That's their order. I knew that they were lost forever, but quite a few did not make it out. They were tortured mentally and physically inside the kiosk thing, but if they still refused the mark of the beast, there was a laser that shot through their brain and their heart and sliced their heads off. Then they were immediately incinerated, and nothing but ashes remained. This was most horrifying of all. It made the Nazi death camps look like a picnic. Millions of people were executed via kiosks, automatically with precision and efficiency. The technology was more advanced than any I had ever seen. Now let me remind you, this is what the angel spoke to Dmitri. This is August 3rd, 1984. August 3rd, 2024 will make 40 years. I'm not saying it starts this year, but it could. The angel said the fall of America will start with an internal revolution in America started by the communists. Some of the people will start fighting against the government. The government will be busy with their internal problems. Then from the oceans, Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America, Mexico, and 2 other countries will attack and defeat America in 1 hour, so great riches will come to naught. God raised up China, Japan, and many of the nations. They'll go against the Russians and defeat the Russians and back them to the gates of Paris where they sign a peace treaty. But they make the Russians their leader. That might give you a hint as to what nation the Antichrist come from. Russians as the leader, it's not that they want to, God makes them. They all go down to attack Israel. Israel can't count on the help of the Jews in America. She cries for Messiah. Jesus returns on the clouds and defeats the armies of the world. It's Armageddon. Now, you remember this. This is the order. And I know I'm running long, but it's important. You want to know when the internal revolution starts? Until we see a dollar drop 30%, a perfect storm inflation. And I got an email the other day that says, hasn't that already hit? Possible. Food shortage, we haven't seen a food shortage yet. That's on the horizon. Riot, civil unrest, we have not seen entitlement checks. We have not seen the Palestinian two-state solution reached yet, or a major earthquake down the middle of the United States. We have not seen states seceding. So I would think that the internal revolution is not yet. What we are near to see is this. We may see Israel give the Palestinians a state, and the headline will probably be Omer ushers in Palestinian state. We do not know for certain what the Omer is, but we think it is the counting of the Omer, which is the 49 days between first fruits and Passover. This year, it would be, well, but see, this is Thursday, so it would be 14 days if you count it one way, or 17 days if you count it the next day. I had one of my buddies say, actually, if you got two Jews, you got three opinions, okay? So there's all kinds of opinions on when the feasts are. But he said this is likely actually the 16th, meaning if we're going to see Omer ushers in Palestinian state this year, we will most likely see it on or before the 17th, of June. So that's, I don't know, what do we say, 19 days? We're at the door. We're at the door. If you haven't asked Jesus into your heart, I'd recommend you get after it. 800-200-GOLD, if you want to keep your life savings. josephskitchen.com. If you want to eat, EMPShield.com, promo code PROPHECY, if you want your computers to work. Let me talk about our three sponsors briefly. First, if you want to get gold or silver, we're going to send you to 800-200-GOLD or prophecyclubgold.com, prophecyclubgold.com. Second, if you want to get long-term emergency food, the only place I would send you to is josephskitchen.com. It is what I believe is God's long-term storage food. As you recall, Pharaoh and Joseph, what fed the world for 7 years was wheat. Most of your long-term storage places, $9,000 to $10,000 to feed one person for 1 year. Joseph's Kitchen can show you how to do it for about $1,000, one person, 1 year. And EMP Shield. If you want your car to start, if you want your computers to start after some kind of nuclear event, that's the device to get. And if you go to empshield.com and use the promo code PROPHECY, get your $50 discount and help your Prophecy Club.